As if Trump didn't have enough problems right here in the US as markets crater to their lowest point in years, international leaders are now pushing back on the American president's hostile approach to the rest of the world, proving that too can play at Trump's game, as evidenced by France's Emmanuel Macron.
It was important for us to meet again as quickly as possible after last night's announcements from President Trump, which are a shock to international trade, not just for the European Union and France, but basically for the proper functioning of global commerce. What is important, and this is all the work that needs to be done by sector, that future investments or investments announced in recent weeks are temporarily suspended until we have clarified things with the United States of America. Because what message would it send if major European players started investing billions of euros in the American economy at a time when they were hitting us? So we need to have collective solidarity.
So let me get this straight. Trump wanted to spur investment into the United States, and so he decided to be a tough guy and trash our allies and punish our trading partners in hopes that they would cower and capitulate the way these bowls of jello in his own party have capitulated and given him the impression that he's this all-powerful being. And yet, far from getting what he wanted, the rest of the world is now out here calling to pause all future investments into the United States, given the unpredictability of the environment that Trump himself created. So not only did our markets crash as the result of these tariffs, but if Trump thought that this would be a situation where temporary pain would give way to future prosperity, I think he is overestimating the rest of the world's willingness to play ball with somebody who has been nothing but hostile. And for those who think, well, who cares? This is France and the European Union. They're big trading partners, but not our biggest. Might I present to you what our actual biggest trading partners are saying? Here's a headline showing what China is doing. China, Japan, South Korea will jointly respond to U.S. tariffs. So at a time when China is ascendant, Trump decided that what he would do to make the U.S. dominant is push the rest of the world into the hands of that very country that threatens American supremacy. Just want to make sure I'm understanding everything correctly here. In fact, everything this administration has done seems conspicuously aligned with the wishes of our biggest adversaries, which Jamie Raskin noted here in a recent interview.
He has turned our closest allies in the world into enemies. He's turned our worst enemies in the world into his personal friends and bosom buddies. He's crashed the stock market. He has fired tens of thousands of people from essential jobs like air traffic controller and food and drug and safety inspectors, forest service firefighters. He's undermining the government that we need to keep it all together. So all I can say is if Vladimir Putin himself had invaded America and come up with a plan to try to destroy our economy and wreck the cohesion of our society, he could not have done better than Donald Trump has done on his own with the help of Elon Musk.
But here's the point that I think is worth touching on here, and that is that Donald Trump figured, wrongly, that if he demanded fealty, that he would get it. He thought that if he humiliated other countries' leaders, that they would come groveling at his feet, begging for forgiveness, begging for special treatment, begging for him to like them. But what he didn't account for is that these people would actually have some dignity, and that would supersede their desire to get into Trump's good graces and avoid getting into what may very well be a costly trade war with the United States. Here's Mark Elias point out perfectly here.
What Donald Trump cannot account for is the idea that someone has dignity. Because no one around Donald Trump has dignity, right? Donald Trump is used to operating in a world of sycophants who have sacrificed every ounce of dignity as an entrance fee to be in his presence. And so he cannot imagine that there is someone, a world leader, a business leader, an individual citizen who might simply say to him, no, not because they're not afraid, not because they don't recognize it'll cause them harm, but because they have decency and they have dignity. Right. They have self-respect. And Donald Trump is miscalculating in this arena, as he usually does when he miscalculates, because there is someone on the other side who says, you know what, my self-respect is worth more to me than the economic harm you can impose. My self-respect is worth more to me than the customers you can scare away. My self-respect is worth more to me than the clients who may leave my law firm and go to some others, or that may go to some other television network. My self-respect matters more. And Donald Trump can't even fathom what that's like.
Granted, I'm not the least bit surprised that Trump felt that no one would have any dignity, because look at the people he surrounds himself with. Trump has assembled the most groveling, sycophantic, obsequious hangers-on that you will ever find, certainly in public service. Trump has become so accustomed to these human bowls of jello, these cowards with less of a spine than a used car lot's inflatable man, that of course he is under the impression that everyone's gonna fold. Ronna McDaniel literally dropped her last name for the guy. If Trump demanded any of these people sacrifice their firstborns, they probably would. And so I'm not surprised in the slightest that he is under the impression that the whole world is filled with feckless yes men, because his world is filled with feckless yes men. What he's learning now is that outside the Republican conference, dignity still exists, and these world leaders are opting to show it. I mean, here's Laura Ingraham today pretending that the market crashing and the U.S. entering a recession is somehow just fear-mongering from the woke left.
Who's happiest today about Trump's reciprocal tariffs? Well, obviously not Wall Street, not those who raked in big money offshoring jobs. In fact, they're busy trying to scare you into turning on Trump. The sky is falling. The sky is definitely falling.
And yet we wonder why Trump thinks that everybody is spineless. Dude has spent his entire life surrounded by jellyfish, and we're supposed to be surprised that he thinks no one has a spine? But the reality is that the Laura Ingrams of the world, and the Lindsey Grahams of the world, and the Kash Patels, and Jim Jordans, and Matt Gaetzes, and every single other person who has taken up collective residence in the protective warmth of Trump's colon is partially responsible for emboldening this depraved, petty little man into destroying our economy, into destroying the livelihoods of so many Americans, because you all have contributed to Donald Trump's God complex. But the true blame lies with Trump himself, who is a grown-ass man and should know better. And let's be clear, he does know better, but he doesn't care, because he views our suffering as a price that he's willing to pay. So when our 401ks plummet, when our mortgages go unpaid, when rent goes unpaid, when our grocery prices surge, when raw materials skyrocket, when housing is out of reach, when the recession makes life unaffordable, Trump won't be thinking about you, because if he cared about you in the first place, he wouldn't have unilaterally and voluntarily gotten us into this mess. For Trump, it is about his ego, just as it's always about his ego. This guy won the presidency on this mistaken notion that he cared about Americans, when in reality, Donald Trump cares about just one person, and that's Donald Trump. Before you go, first, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we're now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they're willing to cater to this White House. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a great way for me to be able to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's completely free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.